It was another quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
There we go. All right, folks, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. That's Radio Central. From the center of your dial, the center of New England, in the center of information, it's Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. You can join the conversation for the next hour right here at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. We do stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app, so you can take us anywhere. Fantastic feature. Tell Alexa to play WCR, and she'll do that, no questions asked. Now, I also do stream the show, whether it's from the WCRN studios or the Cameo Media Studios. We stream on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, X, Facebook, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream to Rumble. There's actually a Joe Mangiacotti Show page or channel on Rumble. Multiple ways to listen, multiple ways to watch as well. And of course, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Ted A back at HQ flying the board. He'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way talk in conversation. As always, there's a lot going on. Just it's the way it is these days. There's a new level of how fast the news cycles move. And I think that's a good thing. Absolutely. I mean, they still try the old tricks as to taking out the trash on Friday and spin everything. But I think collectively, we, the consumers of information, digital or otherwise, have gotten a little more astute at it. I don't think it's as easy. We have a little more skepticism, especially if it's coming from traditional legacy type media. 508-871-7. I'm sorry, Ted, did you say something? I'm sorry, Ted, did you jump in? Something?
Oh, no, I just played the fake news thing.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch it. Thank you. Yeah, I want to jump to this because whenever you say illegals and Nantucket, you know, it's going to make you chuckle the way they handle it. But remember, Tom Homan has specifically said about Massachusetts, because whether it's Mayor Wu or some other jamoke from Massachusetts, defending illegals, and illegals have committed other crimes. Now, remember that when ICE is doing these sweeps and stings, whatever you like to call it, they're going into certain towns and cities or places because they know that a particular illegal happens to be in there who has committed and either been convicted of a crime, certainly has an order to deport on them. And when these communities who do that, which I still maintain is asinine, self-proclaimed sanctuary city, that's not a real thing. And they tell their rank and file police officers, law enforcement officers, and they got city councilmen and mayors who order staff not to assist ICE, not to help them, maybe not to give them a heads up that there's a ICE detention order on this person and they're getting out of jail, they're getting out of court that day. Or if they do it an hour or 2 hours before. And that causes a lot more problems, right? That's dangerous, or it raises the threat level and danger level to the agents. It raises the danger level to the civilians around there. And the other thing it does, it actually does not help as another unintended consequence to people who try not to do the right thing. And that is when they go in to get the bad one, right? The one with maybe a assault battery, attempted rape or worse, ICE is going to maybe come across many other illegals who they didn't even have on the radar screen. illegals who happen to live with that person or maybe work in the same location. They're going to get swept up in that. Even though ICE had no intention of taking those particular people, was not on the radar, didn't know they were there, didn't actually care they were there. Because for now, you know what? They were minding their own business. Sure, they were here illegally, but they were working, paying attention to the law, going home, trying to keep a house, trying to add to the community. That's not who they have to. But if they come across them in the context of what they're doing and they find them to be illegally here, it is then derelict in their duties not to scoop them up. So you liberal mayors and sheriffs or police officers and elected reps, you're actually putting more illegals who are actually not committing crimes after the first one at a higher risk of being scooped up. That's probably not what you were intending to do, but that's how that works. So there's an ICE raid on Nantucket. They detained 12 people, but this includes MS-13 gang members and even child sex offenders. They did this actually yesterday. It was ICE, and they were backed up and supported by FBI, DEA, ATF agents. They conducted a major immigration enforcement operation on Nantucket. Got those 12 individuals suspected of being illegal immigrants. That was part of the broader sweep across Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard and Hyannis. This resulted in 40 total arrests. Now, again, when it's difficult to come get people who have committed heinous crimes and we have deportation orders on them, to you leftist or liberal mayors, and et al., you know who I'm talking about, that you do not cooperate. You are, in fact, making ICE, along with the FBI, DEA, and all the other federal agencies, have to go in there and force. And as I just laid out, when they do that, I guess for lack of a better term, the innocent illegals. In other words, the only law that they broke was getting in here. But then they haven't broken our other laws, like robbery, breaking and entering, assault and battery, sexual assault. You got the list. Now, the Coast Guard was involved with these detainees, right? They were removed from Nantucket via the U.S. Coast Guard patrol boat. Now, the last time we had a group of illegals come to Nantucket, it was during the time Ron DeSantis and even Greg Abbott were doing the buses and planes throughout the country, just repositioning all of the massive numbers of illegals coming in to their states, and they were spreading it around to other states. And I think that did a fantastic job of illustrating that all states are border states. And the criticism, especially from the northern states, who had no empathy, much less an understanding for what, I would say, El Paso, Texas went through every day for years. And they had those illegal immigrants off Nantucket within 24 hours, despite the fact that it was off season and there was plenty of vacant homes and apartments on Nantucket. No, get them off our island. So the 12 detainees, they were removed from Nantucket on the Coast Guard patrol boat, Hammerhead, and that was around 1:30 yesterday afternoon, ensuring safe transport to the mainland. The destination of the detainees, that still remains undisclosed. But see, ICE is targeting the criminal elements. And they confirmed the arrest included a documented MS-13 gang member and at least one child sex offender, highlighting the operation's focus on removing the dangerous individuals. No names or details, criminal histories, they were not released, citing officer safety, ongoing operations. And that's not necessary right at this stage. Once it becomes public record and all that, and there's a court proceeding, You can go look at it. But the operation details, federal agents began to stop vehicles around 7 a.m. across mid-island areas, including, I don't know if you go to Nantucket much, but Old South Road, Surfside Road, My Comet Road, and Essex Road. One incident involved a woman who left in a Toyota, one of those Forerunners, after two men were detained. Then a local resident was briefly questioned about that released. So the local police, they're supposed to have a role in this. And the Nantucket police were notified of ICE's plans on the day before, on the 26th, but did not assist. So ICE did the courtesy, followed the procedure, and notified the Nantucket police. So they knew about it 24 hours before the operation was going to happen. But they did not assist. And DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, emphasized a nationwide enforcement push. Nome and others are calling for these numbers to increase. DHS said, or they posted, ICE is removing illegal aliens from all states, communities, and work sites across this country. If you are here illegally, use the CBP Home app self-deport. If not, you will be arrested and deported without a chance to return, unquote. Again, what the administration has done is took the app that the Biden administration put together, the Border Patrol app, which allowed people in other countries to literally go on their smartphone and make a reservation to come into the country. Not a hearing, not an asylum request, just, it's part of the bigger picture, but just literally book the travel arrangements. And then we flew them in. Your tax dollars flew them into the country and then relocated them to whatever part of the country that they wish to live in. And they were given, under the rules of the asylum request, a court date. But the court dates were going, depending what section of the country, anywhere from 7 years up to maybe 10 years down the road. But 120 days after they're here, they apply for work papers, they get a tax ID number, and then they're actually allowed to work. All right, we have to take our first pause here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Join the conversation, 508-871-7000. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
Are you looking for a flexible, rewarding career that lets you work on your own terms? WCRN 830 AM, a 50,000-watt powerhouse station covering New England, is searching for account reps who thrive on creativity, independence, and the thrill of closing a deal. What's better than listening to radio? Selling it. Work from home, set your own hours, and enjoy the freedom to build your book of business. Whether you need to work mother's hours or prefer to structure your own schedule, WCRN offers the flexibility to fit your lifestyle. As a WCRN account rep, you'll collaborate with local businesses, community leaders, and innovative entrepreneurs, helping them reach a vast audience across New England. Plus, you can even get on the air, adding your personal touch to the station's success. And don't worry, we provide all of the training and guidance you'll need to succeed. If you're ready to tap into your creative side, work independently, and be part of a dynamic team, reach out to myself. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, the general manager here at WCRN 830 AM. Call my direct line at 508-556-4411. Again, that is 508-556-4411. Your next great opportunity is just a call away. All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Wednesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here at AM 830 WCRN, reminding you that you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And we're streaming social media platforms. You can follow me at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. So if you want to listen and watch on Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, or even Rumble, feel free to do that. Just a final thought I'm thinking on this whole ICE thing and Nantucket. Yeah, the MS-13 threat there. And the community panic and profiling concerns that are there. See, some of the residents, they're saying that there's widespread fear, with some avoiding public spaces. Critics argue the raid's broad tactics, right? Vehicle stops in multiple areas, unfairly targeted non-criminals. But of course, the counter to that, for that operation, focuses on the serious offenders. That justifies the approach. If you know they're there, and if you know somebody just committed a violent robbery in the neighborhood, it has been standard operating procedure for decades. The police will have roadblocks, motor vehicle checks on all the roads out of town. Now, this is an island. You can't go that far, right? Though they acknowledge the need for the precision to avoid, alienating the communities. They get that. But see, sanctuary state challenges. Massachusetts sanctuary policies have historically led to local courts ignoring the ICE detainers. And we saw that in cases like the Luis Adolfo Perez, Felix Alberto Perez Gomez. Some argue that this enables criminals to remain free. We can cite a lot of examples where released individuals reoffended and they just committed to break the law over and over again. But we have to have some enhanced public safety here. The removal of MS-13 member and that child sex offender from Nantucket likely prevented future crimes. Reinforcing those calls for stricter immigration enforcement to protect our communities. The raid caused confusion, maybe even fear, with reduced traffic and school pickups as immigrants stayed home. Next time, so we're worried about this could strain Nantucket's economy, which relies on immigrant labor. I never got that argument, folks. I mean, I get it. I can intellectually understand what you're saying. I just say it's hogwash. So we're supposed to suspend vetting. Don't care who comes in, how bad of an hombre that is that comes in, because you want somebody to bust your tables. Grow up. Grow up. Now, ICE will be conducting similar operations throughout this early part of 25. Nantucket's raid signal sustained this federal push that they were doing. And it's a necessary part of this. And like I said, people like Kristi Noem, even Kash Patel are calling, and Tom Homan calling for this to increase in frequency. They want the number up to about 3,000 a day. That's quite a number. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Mark has been waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
There once was a man from Nantucket.
Careful.
You know how to solve this problem in Nantucket? You issue every legal resident of Nantucket a license to carry. And while you're at it, you can give every legal resident of the city of Lynn a license to carry. How about it? What do you think of them marbles?
Well, I like the way you're thinking, but I don't want to do that. You know why? Because not everybody. Hold on, Mark. Hold on. Let me finish my thought. Hold on, Mark.
Go ahead.
Not everybody is equipped to carry a weapon. Not everybody should really have an LTC. It has a lot to do with your personality, your ability, your training. I'm a big Second Amendment supporter, but I know people that if I knew they were carrying, I'd be very concerned around them. But I get what you're saying.
I'll follow it up with this. I was being a little facetious.
No, I got it. I got it. Like I said, I like the way you think. Archie
Yeah,
Bunker style.
you know what? The people in Nantucket, right, are raising hell about this because, quote, they don't feel safe anymore. And neither do the people in Chelsea, or neither do the people in Lynn or Revere. You want me to keep going down the list? They don't feel safe anymore either.
Exactly, Mark. The thing there is that everybody in every state is now, as I said earlier in the opening segment, we're all border states because of the redistribution of both a couple of governors. But let's not forget that the Biden administration, those infamous midnight flights, were redistributing the illegals from the literal border states that abutted Mexico to various cities and states throughout the country. And they were doing it with a little bit of calculation on that as to trying to, dilute the red states a little bit and fill it up with illegals there, because they really do think that all of these immigrants are going to vote Democratic down the road, right? That's part of the bigger picture. Thank you for the call, Mark. Always appreciate it. Good call and good points always. The point is they feel that they can import people who will eventually vote, because at the same time, how do we know this? Because at the same time, the same people who support these absolute ludicrous policies are telling us that they should be able to vote. They live here now. They should be able to vote. As if they've never looked at the Constitution or have no understanding of what a sovereign country is. Like it's beyond their ability to understand that at all. So, no, you can't vote. And for those cities that say you can vote in the municipal, and this ties in to the argument over the census, right? The Democratic Party and people on the left, they really want illegals to be counted in the census, but not just counted, but be counted as citizens. And why do I draw that distinction? I think that the census should, in fact, so that we know, ask how many, are you a citizen? Do you have a green card? No ramifications to the question, purely data driven. But those people that are not citizens and do not have a right to vote cannot be used in the calculus of the districting. So I'm going to recap this or explain this, because there are some people, I know, probably not you, you know what I'm talking about, but there are people who, what the hell are you talking about, Joe? So every 10 years, that census is conducted, as our founding fathers set this up to say, because not the Senate, but the House, the people's house, is based on population. It doesn't change. The number of congressional members don't change, but how many each state has depends on the population of the state. So that every member of Congress represents roughly the same number of people in the country. But the Democrats want to say, well, we want to count the illegals as citizens so that that number is put into the formula and the calculus of representation. It doesn't pass the common sense test, but they're not your constituents. If you can't vote, you should not be calculated in that. The census, the main reason for a census is to figure out where people live in the United States. And the states that have higher populations have more representation. We've lost several congressmen over the years here in Massachusetts because we've lost population to other states. And those states have picked up congressional seats. So first you get illegals counted in the census so that you get to have more Democratic, because that's who's going to get elected in a blue city, in a blue state. More Democrats in the House, because you have more citizens, not constituents, not people who legally can vote. And then you turn around and Campbell's nose under the tent, You get them voting in the municipal elections. You justify that. You try to get that. And you're going to get it through probably the district court, because that district court is a blue court. And that's the first step to the end goal of getting illegals to vote in national elections. This administration and this Congress need to stop that. There is a national voter ID discussed and on the table right now. Remember, elections are very clearly the domain of the states. The founding fathers did not want a national election. We're set up with the Electoral College process, and we don't have one national election. We have 50 elections all held on the same day. And each state puts forth its electors to the Electoral College. Those are the numbers that you're running for. You're not even running for the popular vote, actually. Many a times, a candidate has not received the popular vote, but did do it on the Electoral College, which is all that matters. So that is part of and pieces of that larger plan. And you've had Trump in the first term who wanted that removed from the census. Again, I think that data should be included for sake of data, so we know where people are and where the populations are. But it doesn't go into the calculation of federal funds, and it certainly doesn't go into the calculation of how many congresspersons your state has. That should be solely based on your constituents in the state, on residents who are allowed to vote, who can vote in a federal election. That's just common sense, period. And I've never have heard an argument even close to justifying no voter ID when it comes to voting. Matter of fact, most people who try to convince me of that end up proving my point. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Reminding you, not only does the station stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app, I always stream the Joe Mangiacotti Show on my social media platforms, X, Facebook, Twitch TV, even my LinkedIn profile, and of course on Rumble as well. Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I. We'll take our mid-show break here, folks. Come back on the other side. Stick with us. Back in 2 and 10.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. We've got partly sunny skies for today with high temperatures making it back into the mid and upper 70s in most spots, even a couple lower 80s on the map this afternoon. Rain is going to arrive with those thicker clouds late tonight. So after midnight, let's plan on showers at least through the Thursday morning commute. The afternoon looks a little cool tomorrow with highs in the 60s under mostly cloudy skies. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Hi, folks. This is Mike Stacey, head professional at Norton Country Club, welcoming you to the start of the 2025 golf season. Norton Country Club is a championship 18-hole golf course located just minutes off of 485. The course came through the winter grid, and we're open for daily fee, as well as having membership opportunities and outings available. Our clubhouse is a great venue for your wedding or group gathering needs. If you're interested, call 508-285-2400, extension 1 for events, or 103 for golf, as well as nortoncountryclub.com. Hope to see you out there.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. You can join the conversation in studio here at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000 for the remainder of the hour. Reminding you, of course, the station does stream on the TuneIn app, so that's really cool. You can take us anywhere. Tell Alexa to play WCRN, and she'll do that. No questions asked. And reminding you, not only is this a live show, weekday afternoons at 1 o'clock, but it is converted into a podcast. And then you can subscribe to it on Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, tuned in all the places that you subscribe to, Podbean, wherever you'd like to. It's you can subscribe and it will get sent to you or downloaded to you. No commercials and so forth. But again, the show is turned into a podcast, and you can watch and listen on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, MANGI, also on the station's Facebook page. And if you haven't gone over to WCRN 830 AM Facebook page, do me a favor, do that. Give us a like button and a follow as we're increasing the content there. The Carr Brothers, they're streaming their show. Freedom Health Radio streaming their shows there, so you're seeing more and more content gather there. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phone lines. Ken has been waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Hello, Joe. Hey, have you picked up on last week's news?
It's a lot of news. You got to narrow it down.
Well, when you talk about illegal in Massachusetts, I guess they go together.
Yeah.
There's so many of them in your state. But there was a Colombian woman, and when it's described as a Colombian woman, it's a news source to the right, because otherwise they give you Massachusetts women or whatever the city they came from. But this woman, you know how you talk about troopers? Well, I call her a multi-fur. Lina Maria Orillo Hernandez, who for 20 years was ripping off hundreds of thousands of dollars from the taxpayers and voting too, through stolen identity.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So this is my follow-up question for you, because I remember the Hernandez name, but I don't know the details. So the question I have, was she living under an assumed name? Maybe a lot of times people will rent IDs from Puerto Ricans because they're citizens and it's an easy thing and they can often fit the name. Or was she actually using her real name, and because she, say, got a license, did she register to vote in some municipality?
Well, they talk about a stolen identity. Which,
all right. So she's going under another ID.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why it's so important that the clerks purge those lists every year, not every 10 years, literally every year. They need to remove people who don't live in the property assigned to the registration, people who have moved out of state, people who are dead. They need to remove them.
So among the many things of her crimes, she obtained 9 state IDs, including a Massachusetts real ID and a U.S. passport.
Wow.
She was a fraudulent voter who they know voted in 2024.
She had a passport and a real ID in the same name?
Well, I don't know all the details.
All right. We'll have to find some stories. I'd like to get to know that more.
Which apparently, I don't know if NTD is part of Epic Times, because somewhere along the line at the bottom I saw Epic Times. So she was receiving Section 8, the tune of $260,000 of assistance over a 15-year period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Over $100K of Social Security disability, and only about $43,000 of staff.
See, folks, I often say this: it's anyone who illegally enters the country then needs to, out of necessity, continue to break laws. And I'm let's put the violent, criminal, sexual abuse and all of those, put a pin in that, and that's a whole different class. I'm just saying that when someone comes to the country illegally, they don't come in through one of the 147 points of entry. They don't officially request asylum hearing and all of that. They don't do it legally. Once they're in the country, they have to continue to break laws. And some of those laws, like identity theft, would be a very serious thing, Ken, if you or I did that. If you or I took somebody's ID and bought cars or rented property or established credit in somebody else's name, it would be very serious, and good chance we would do some jail time. I mean, if we were model citizens our entire life, maybe we get a couple of years of probation, but something would happen, would it not?
Yeah, there's a good news and bad news as far as this story. Hey, they finally nabbed her. But
Yeah, that's the upside, right?
Nefarious, right? And you happen to cross the border legally over the last 4 years, and you're reading this story. You're like, hey, that's a new home for me, right? What am I missing? If she could do it, I could do it.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the problem, right? Because not only did Biden say before he won the presidency, but in the Democratic debate, they all raised their hands when asked, would they give free medical to illegals? Everybody on the Democratic stage raised their hands. And Joe Biden said, you're all welcome. Come here. That literally made their cartels change their business model. And they shifted to human trafficking, folks, and made a multi-billion-dollar annual business out of smuggling people into the United States, including minors, including people who were then indebted, and including young people and children who were sold off for horrible futures.
Joe, I just heard you say you wanted Medicaid cuts. How dare you? Well, yeah, if we cut out the ones that don't deserve it, that shouldn't be here.
Yeah, see, when you say yes, make the cut to Medicaid and Social Security, it means the fraudulent, bloated, the people who might be getting benefits who are either dead, and there's cases, folks. I know everybody says, oh, those people that are 150, yeah, they're on it, but they're not receiving any benefits. I get that. But I'm saying there are a very large number of people that Nana passed away a while ago, and nobody bothered to officially, and they may have been put on the master death list. There at the Social Security, there is a MSD or a MDS, master death list. Now on that MDL, I should say, it's supposed to cross over. Now, one of the things that Doge and Elon and his computer geniuses have been doing is taking a lot of the systems from the 70s and 80s types of computers and Cobalt and crap like that and bringing it up to modern software, modern equipment where things can talk to each other a little bit better. So there is fraud there. And Medicaid, folks, it's like talking about the art world is a great place for money laundering. Medicaid fraud is rampant, and it's billions upon billions of dollars annually. For crying out loud, Medicare fraud is in almost every gangster movie or series. Look at The Sopranos. It was a common theme, right? They had the MRI tests that they were scamming through the degenerate doctor who was a gambler. It's so well known, it's actually referenced in American pop culture. So yes, and if we cut the fraud, we cut the waste, we cut the scamming, what does that do? It provides the money is then there for the legitimate people who are on Medicare and Medicaid, and they need it. And maybe tests that are turned down sometimes, or you have to appeal, will be approved first time around, and you get the medical attention that you deserve to get when you deserve to get it. And that goes for Social Security, which is, Ken, you've listened to the show for years. You know Social Security is a sore subject because we raided that fund. That's not taxpayer money. That is a fiduciary account because people paid their pay into that. Employers paid into that. That's not tax. That's a trust account. And Congress, including Bill Clinton's bragging about balancing the budget in the 90s, was because he raided Social Security. And you have people on there who have never paid into it. SSDI, yes, that's Social Security Disability Insurance. SSI, Social Security Income, that should come out of a welfare program, tax money, i.e. tax money, because they never paid into the system. and Social Security could be solvent if all the money that has been raided out of there had to be paid back with interest, and then you removed all the people that it wasn't meant for, then it would be a healthy account. I contend that, Ken.
I had some more illegal news listening to a different show. Apparently, my
How
old,
dare you?
well, I like to be as informed as possible.
Yep.
And you don't have
I'm
a
only 1
100%.
hour a day.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But anyway, apparently the town that I bordered, I was in Massachusetts, on the streets of flyers or something for public-private property of some sort, basically a network of let us know if you see ice.
If you see what?
Kind of what probably happened at Eureka Street in Worcester. In other words, they knew the ice was coming because everybody's communicating. They're coming, kind of like the British, because that's their attitude. Because literally they go on your show, not your show, but station show, and say, yeah, we want a revolution, just like you guys had 250 years ago.
Illegally in the country want a revolution on American soil.
I'm talking politically connected. In Worcester, they want a revolution, and they've said it.
We're in the middle of a revolution. I hate to tell you, folks. The 2024 election was. The 2016 was the beginning of it. Look, we've got how many court cases right now, and lawsuits being brought. I mean, I totally get it that Trump decided to come in and do everything by executive order, and then to be damned and let's see, challenge it and let the court codify it down the road. I have to go to the break. Any final thought, Ken?
The battle continues. More stories will pop up, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for the call, Ken. Always appreciated. Always a good call. Yeah, folks. Social Security always aggravates me because nobody ever talks about that, what I just said. Replace the money that was stolen with the interest, remove the people that it's not really meant for. If they're on Social Security income, that comes out of the general fund because that's his welfare program in essence. But Social Security disability insurance, that is because you've worked, you've paid into it, and then you've come across some kind of illness or catastrophe that you can't work anymore. That I get. But we have to take our fourth, or I should say our third and final break. Come back for our fourth and final segment. Stick with us here on AM 830 WCRN 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Back in 2 minutes, 10 seconds, folks. 2 and 10.
Polar Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772 1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti on Radio Central WCRN. And you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour. We've got several minutes left here at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. All right. And don't forget, we're streaming on my social media platforms, Joe Mangi Show, if you want to do that, or go to Rumble as well. Janine Pirro was sworn in today. Judge Janine, she's been on this show. I've had her on before, and she's had a book out. Well, she was sworn in as the interim U.S. attorney for D.C. That was done today, earlier today. I watched some of the process as she was sworn in at the Oval, making her the latest Fox News appointed by the President Trump. I mean, Trump has really tapped a lot of the Fox News people, right? Duffy and Hexeth, and now Jean Pirro. I think there's another one on there, right? Leo Terrell, who's a common contributor there, right? So he has something to do, I think, with the civil rights, running the civil rights debate. There's a few people. It's kind of crazy. But for 5 decades, Janine Pirro, known just to everybody, all of us, as Judge Janine, she's devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair and equal and partial rule of law, as a judge should. And that's what she's about. And Trump said that during the swearing in. Now, she's a former judge and a prosecutor who most recently hosted the 5 on Fox. And she's had a few specials that she does too. And she'll look at some of the criminal cases and some of the lighter side stuff, I think Castles or something like that. But Ed Martin was his previous pick. Now, Martin, who had served as DC's interim top prosecutor, kind of lost the GOP support for that job, right? Specifically, his defense of January 6th rioters, some inflammatory rhetoric around the Capitol attack, it plagued that nomination. So, Pirro, sworn in, interim. I don't know if that's her choice, Trump's choice, or it will be made permanent eventually. She's 73. She was a judge and district attorney in what's called Westchester County in New York from 90 to 2005, 15 years there. She was also the first woman elected to those roles. But here's a case where she ran a good campaign. She's very much a law and order candidate, and she won that election, and she happens to be a female. She didn't run a campaign to be the first female. You guys see the difference in that? She established the nation's first domestic violence bureau and gained a lot of visibility in cases involving domestic abuse and crimes against elderly. Maybe she'll be taking a look at Joe Biden. Who knows? So Trump announced Pirro's appointment back on the 8th, praising her as one of the top district attorneys in the history of the state of New York, and certainly a crusader for victims of crime. She did leave the role as co-host of the Fox 5 to take this position. In the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, one of the largest in the country, handles federal corruption cases, national security matters, and local crimes, including everything from burglaries to, yes, January 6th related prosecutions. Pirro's first act was announcing sentences for 2 men involved in the 2024 drive-by shooting near a D.C. elementary school. So there's probably a few people now who in the D.C. area are maybe a little concerned that Judge Janine is now the U.S. attorney in that district. And not that I prepared to talk about this, but just by the way, our friend over there in New York, Letitia James, apparently has a little more legal trouble, right? We know about the fraudulent paperwork for mortgages and insurance, claiming that she lived in West Virginia so she could get owner-occupied financing. We know that she listed her father as a husband, again, owner-occupied property, and lied about the number of units in it. So we know she's committed mortgage fraud. She's lied on documents under pains and penalty of perjury. But now she's dealing with 41,000, give or take, of taxpayer money she diverted for air travel to bop around private planes. I don't know if they're jets. Doesn't sound like a lot of money for a jet. But the point is she chartered aircraft with taxpayers' money, not something she should be doing from her office. And let's not forget, this is a woman who promised if you put her in office, she will find the crime to go after a man. Now, anybody with any authority or power in the judicial system, or anyone asking for power to be granted to them by the citizens, and instilling in them that power of arrest and prosecution, and they say, I don't know if there's a crime, I don't know what the crime is, but give me the power, I'll find one, or I'll keep prosecuting them till they get them in jail. That was her campaign. That was her campaign. And turns out she actually did commit mortgage fraud. I know she tried to get Trump on that, but there was no victim there, because every single bank that he dealt with, they were all paid back. There's no victim. There's no crime. She wanted to latch on that he thought his properties were worth more. More than what? The bank had no problem with the assessments they came to. And here's the thing, folks. I've originated mortgages for years. I've done hard money lending. You lend the money on in commercial properties like this, it's not like underwriting it for your home mortgage. It's, does the numbers work? Is the property going to work? The value of the property can be justified for that amount of money. And does the property bring in? Because when you're talking about buying a skyscraper, the revenue of the building is what matters. So this is asinine. There's no crime there. But I want to shift gears for a minute because, look, we have this whole thing going on now with the Democrats still trying to figure out what the hell went wrong. They haven't figured out why Trump is so popular. So popular that he won both the popular vote and the electoral vote by a landslide. They don't know why. They believe their own rhetoric. They don't understand why you don't. And when you don't, they have to figure out how to speak to you because you're too stupid to understand them. They're going to commit $20 million to study how to talk to men, because that's where the Democratic Party lost their largest number of support and voters are males. $20 million to figure this out. You know, for nothing, you could go just talk to some Trump supporters. Go talk to some conservatives. Save yourself 20 mil. Buy a few beers and have a conversation. You'll get further. Trust me, you will. And then they're worried about the language, right? They're eating themselves when you got the David Hogg situation, and he's trying to primary out Democrats, totally against the fiduciary responsibility of the deputy chair. They think Tim Walz is supposed to be the new Democratic symbol for masculinity. And then you've got the Raging Cajun telling us stop using certain words. People don't know what it is, like oligarchy. Don't use equity, use equality as long as you want. He's on to something there. So and now you've got Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Remember her? Yeah, she gave the questions to Hillary before the debate and all that. You know who she is. And she's rejecting the New York Times article on this because the New York Times reported and cited that Democratic researcher Annette Osario's focus groups with swing voters revealed that voters view Republicans, and get this, so this is a non-bias, if it's anything, it's actually to the left, but they decided to take these swing voter people who aren't registered but voted, say Republican or Trump this time, and she asked the focus group, I guess is called, Republicans, how do you describe a Trump supporter, describe a Republican? And it always came back as apex predators, like lions and tigers and sharks, decisive and aggressive animals. But when they asked, what are the animals that represent Democrats? You got tortoises, slugs, and sloths, say basically slow, passive type animals. So one voter called Democrats deer in headlights, meaning, of course, paralysis in the face of challenges. They don't know how to handle the challenges. You think about that. It makes a lot of sense, because you see them in school, they're being fed this, well, in a lot of cases, crap, and no counter thought, no analytical thinking, no argument, no debate, no critical thinking's allowed. We tell you how it is. We give you the talking points, and we never allow anybody to ask the follow-up question or challenge you on this. So Wasserman Schultz's response, and she's a Democrat out of Florida, dismissed the animal comparison. She was on a CNN interview yesterday. She called them ridiculous, insisting she's focused on human beings facing devastating healthcare cuts. She argued that the focus group was prompted to make animal analogies, so she's going to question the validity of this. But even her, because she was on board when Hillary referred to the basket of deplorables, she had no problem. She never spoke out when Joe Biden called Trump supporters names, and they weren't human and they were stupid, and all the things that got targeted and thrown at Trump supporters of MAGA movement people. But the Democratic Party, folks, is in a crisis. Favorability is at historic low, right? Like 27% positive. But this is going to wrap up the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCR. And don't forget to follow me on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, MANGI. And you can always watch as well as listen on my social media platforms as well as Rumble TV. Well, that will do it for me, folks. So stay tuned. Frankie Boyer's up next, and I'll be back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Joe out, folks.
You're listening to WCRN.